This is LS500, and today we're going to present electronic resources. In today's environment, in the digital environment that we live today, of course, information resources are electronic resources, or are, I guess, the main staple of what we as librarians use today. There are many printed sources that, of course, have a lot of value, and we should be using them at the library. Many people prefer, I do, for example, prefer some printed resources, such as maps. Even though you may have an interactive map, an electronic interactive map, I'd rather have a printed map. And books too. I prefer my textbooks, for example. I can get an electronic copy, but I'd rather have a printed copy. However, as I said at the beginning, in this age of where we have so many electronic resources, so many digital resources, and when we do reference in our libraries, we may be using increasingly more electronic resources than printed resources. So we as professional librarians have to get familiar with electronic resources. So what we're going to do today is I guess as an introduction to electronic resources. I will be posting also other lectures that will be helpful for you to understand or to learn or to reinforce, if you already have done this, how to use electronic resources and why are they so valuable. Okay, so what are electronic sources? All already available electronic sources can differ greatly. So there are different types of electronic resources. They may differ in interface, they may differ in comments, they differ in retrieval appearances and fields, and also searchable fields. And of course, let's say under this in this context of this class, we're talking about databases, journals. We're not talking about the open web. We're not talking about Google search. We're talking about using academic databases. Why? The question that I always ask is, why do we have to use databases or academic databases? Why can't we use the open web, or for example Google or Yahoo or whatever we're using? Well, there is a big difference, because when we use academic databases, for example, we're using resources that having review by other experts, so we know they come from a good source. Okay, they come from a valid source. They are information that it may or may not be relevant, but the source is an authoritative source. When we use the open web, we may get very good resources too, and they may come from authoritative sources. However, we also get a lot of misinformation and disinformation. So by using electronic databases that are peer review, we are able to filter the quality of the information that we're using. So when we do reference, it's not that we are not going to use Google. We're not going to use Google. Yes, we are. But if we want to offer a reliable service to our patrons, we also may check the information using electronic databases. Okay, that's the whole idea. What are some of the advantages of electronic information? Well, it's fast. It offers additional information. For example, one thing that we can get when we do use electronic sources, so I was just mentioning interactive maps. We can have several layers of information within a map, something that it's very difficult to do in a printed map. Even though I prefer printed maps, I understand that using electronic map has an advantage over printed maps. That's an example. If we go and find an article that we are interested in, the article may link, they may have hyperlinks to other articles and other information. That also is an advantage of using electronic information or electronic sources. Okay, it may offer also free text searching. That it's I would consider it an advantage, but also it is a disadvantage because even though we may retrieve many information or many information sources, we don't have, I mean, we have a larger recall, we don't have as much precision, okay? So it's a matter of, how many documents can you retrieve that are relevant for the patron's information need. So we have to strike a balance. You may search free text, but you may retrieve too many resources that are not relevant. Or another advantage within free text searching is that it's a tool that helps search within a document. So we may, of course, the first resource would be to use the index, back of the book index, but we can also do free text searching if it is possible. So we can pinpoint information within a resource, and that's very important too. Of course, we have access to more information, and I said more information sources. It may be printable. Sometimes you're allowed to print a PDF, and it comes out similar to the printed version of a journal if it has a printed version. Sometimes it's very hard to print. For example, if we use a textbook that is offered through our library website, I think you will be able to print only one page. Okay, you won't be able to print the whole textbook. It will be very hard to do. Well, they do that to safeguard the copyright issues of that textbook. Okay. So sometimes printing is allowed, sometimes it is not. For example, I like to play my guitar, and I use a lot of music that I find online, a lot of chords for songs that I like to play, and sometimes I use them directly from in my computer, in my notebook or my desktop. I can see the music and I can play the music. That's fine. But sometimes I would like to print that music. Well, in some websites will let you print, others won't let you print unless you pay a premium subscription, and then you will be able to print that music. So that will depend on the type of access and the privilege that you have in order to be printable. But that's an advantage, having that option. Another advantage, of course, is that you can access information from different points. Not only by searching different fields, but also by searching for the information in different databases or in the open web too. Or using, for example, Microsoft Academics or Google Scholar. You can search academic information too. Currency, well, it may be current because it's not outdated, such as some, not all, some printed paper printed publications, because we may have a collection in our library of journals that is outdated. If you have access to electronic information, to databases, to academic databases, you will have a very up-to-date information, very current information, and that for the scientific research, for research in general, is very important to have the most current information. That there is no other way around, unless you are doing a history of science or you're doing other things, or you are in a different field, such as social science maybe, or humanities. But if you don't need to have current information. But if you're doing science, you need the most current information. In my opinion, the most important thing about electronic information when it comes from authoritative sources is that it is a credible information, and it is a credible information or credible authorship because it has gone through the peer review process, and that's what it is important. Again, it's not the same to do a Google search and get thousands of hits, but if we examine the information that we have retrieved, or the information sources that we have retrieved, much of that information don't have or doesn't have a credible authorship. Anybody can publish anything in the internet. I can publish whatever I want to say and have my own web page and publish information which may be misinformation or maybe disinformation. I'm doing it on purpose. So we have to be careful about that. When we use electronic databases, and especially academic databases or business databases, we are accessing credible authorship. And that, of course, means that they are more accurate and they may be comprehensive too. And that's very important. And these are some of the advantages that we find in electronic information. And, of course, some of these advantages are also found in the printed format too. So this is not exclusive of electronic information. Databases. Let's see what a database. A database is a collection of records. Okay, in general, that's a definition of a database. It doesn't have to be a database on information or on journals. No, a database is a collection of records, and each record is a collection of fields. For example, we have the bibliographic record, and in the bibliographic record we have author, title, name of the source, year of publication, etc., etc. We may have many fields. So those fields together, they make up a record. What type of database we have? We have academic databases. We have bibliographic databases that may or may not be academic. And we have links, and that will depend on the type of access that your library has. We may have links to full text or only to the citation and probably an abstract. But that also depends on the type of access and how much the library is investing in getting that access. And we may also have links to HTML, full text, or links to hypertext to other. So we can serve from one article to another, and that's pretty neat, and that's a great advantage of using databases. Okay, but again, it all depends on the type of subscription that you have in your library, because information, it's very expensive. This is a good example of a database, the OPAC. This is our online public access catalog. That's a database, and of course, normally in the OPAC, what we find is the bibliographic record. But we may also find links to full text. So if you search in our library website, our textbook, the one that we're using for this class, you will find a link to the textbook, to the electronic version of the textbook. It takes you, but it's very interesting to see the navigation, because you enter in our OPAC, in the Clarion Library website, OPAC, and then it will take you to one of the electronic databases, and that's so you are out of the OPAC to a subscription database, and this is where you find the electronic version of the textbook. Okay, so what you find in the OPAC is a link to the database where Clarion University has enough privileges to have a electronic version of the textbook. So we have to be aware where we are when we are doing when we are searching using electronic sources. Of course, the internet is a database. We have bibliographic databases, we have full text databases, we have directory sources, we have numeric data and other type of data, and we have aggregated data. So these are types of databases that we may encounter. In terms of interfaces, well, we have what is called the menu-driven interface and the command-driven interface. Almost every electronic and academic database that I know of will have a menu-driven interface, which is easier to use. But you can they also will have the choice or the option to go to a command-driven, and that means you have more it's more powerful when you do a search. However, to use a command-driven interface, you have to know the syntax. You have to become familiar with the syntax that they use in that database. Okay. So normally, when we are students or scholars, but we are not professional librarians, we use the menu-driven interface. Once we have become professionals, we have to be familiar with using command-driven interface. Why? Because you can skip many steps and get to the most relevant information. And you become, of course, a more proficient searcher. Search strategy. How do we search? Well, by the way, we offer a class that I'm going to teach next semester on online searching. It's called LS500. So if you're interested in going into a lot of detail on how to search electronic information, I will tell you that you can take that class. I'm going to add some videos that I produced for that class in this class. So if you want to know more about searching, you can listen to the videos, okay? But we have to have, in order to do any search, first we have to select the appropriate source. In other words, we have to select what database we're going to use, and then we have to analyze it thoroughly to see if the information that we're looking for is there. We can use concept analysis. We can use term variation. And here, once we have the concept analysis, I mean we have to know, and we do that through the interview, through the reference interview. You and the patron, or the patron and you. Remember, this is a conversation between two adults, okay, or between two human beings, because you may be doing a reference interview to a child too. But it's between two intelligent persons. Well, you have to conceptualize what the patron is looking for, and once you do that, then you have to look for the terms. And I have mentioned it before. You need to use what we call control language. Here it says identify standardized subject headings. That's control language. And why do we have to use control language, you may ask? Well, we have to use control language to make the search more efficient, because when that information was input into the system, it was assigned keywords and descriptors that were control language. Okay. In most of cases, it was not assigned natural language keywords or descriptors. So the information was assigned control language descriptors and keywords, and therefore you will be able to get to that information if you're using keywords or descriptor by using control language. And I guess the best source for control language is the Library of Congress subject headings. Okay? So please think about this carefully. I know we like to do keyword searching with whatever we think first, and then we don't find information, or we find information, but we don't find the relevant information that we are looking for. Or our search takes longer than it should, because we haven't prepared our search strategy enough. And consider then the use of control language. Also, and I show you in my last video lecture, consider the use of a index. And as I show you, academic databases, electronic academic databases have electronic indexes. So that's another way, and that's another way to be more efficient when you're searching electronic information. Okay? Then, of course, you can consider synonyms, or you have to consider synonyms, and you are to combine headings or keywords to narrow or broaden your search. It depends what you want to do, how much precision and how much recall you're getting. And then you have to submit, analyze, refine, submit. So it's a whole process that may repeat itself several times until your patrons' information needs are addressed. The whole point here, this is not a theoretical discussion. The whole point here that we have to aim at is to solve your patrons or your clients or the users information needs. Okay. Again, this is not an academic discussion if you have to use controlled vocabulary or not. The idea here is to help your patron, and that because you are the professional, you have to be proficient. You have to do, if you're going to do a Google search. So what are you there for? I mean, what's the point of talking to a librarian or going to a library if the librarian or is going to do a Google search? I could do a Google search too, or anybody can do a Google search. The whole point talking to a professional is to have a professional service. If you're not going to provide a professional service, then there's no point of being a librarian, or it's no point of consulting a librarian, because I can do a Google search. Anybody can do a Google search. But you may do a Google search, that's fine, but you also will go beyond the Google search using controlled vocabulary and using academic and research database or business database, depending on what type of librarian you are. And therefore, you have to be proficient in the use of electronic resources. I have heard before from many students that said, well, why do we have to learn that? We can find it in Google. Yes and no. You may find it in Google, that is true. But how do you know the information that you are acquiring through Google it's of a good quality information? Well, you have to assess it. Okay? How do you know it's relevant? How do you know it's pertinent? You have to provide the best information for your user. You have to show. You have to be, and I think it has to do with the ethics of the profession, and also with being a proud professional. You have to show your expertise. And you have to be happy about having that expertise and said, okay, you did this Google search, we can do a Google search, let me see, let me assess the information that we find in Google, but let's go to other more authoritative sources. And then you do a controlled vocabulary search. And then you will find the most relevant, up-to-date, pertinent information. Okay, one way to do searching, of course, when we're using is combining fields. Okay, and for that we use what is called the Boolean logic, and the operators in the Boolean logic is or, and not. And depending on the database, we can combine many fields using the Boolean operators or, and not. In that way, we can either focus and do a narrower search, or we can expand the search. Okay? Here is an example, a very simple example to understand the concept of the Boolean operator OR. Okay? When we use, for example, two keywords, dogs and cats, and we combine them with the operator OR, we will retrieve every resource that has the word dogs, and every resource that has the word cats, and every resource that have both words. Okay, so the recall will be larger. We'll get more information sources. So this way we are expanding our search. Okay. Now, when we use the operator and we use the same two keywords, dogs, cats, when we combine them with the operator and, we are narrowing the search because we will only retrieve documents or information resources that combine in the same document the word dogs and the word cats. Okay? And of course, everything will depend on what fields are we combining. Are we combining title with author, an abstract, or a full text search, etc., etc., etc. But in general terms, I want you to see the difference when you use or and when you use and. Okay? So OR is for having a broader search, and AND is for narrowing the search. Another example, another operator, is the operator NOT. And here, the example, we're using pets and cats. So, if we use pets, not cats, we will retrieve all the documents or all the information resources that have the word pets, but we will not retrieve those who have the word cats. So we'll be retrieving other type of pets, dogs, birds, etc., etc., etc. And again, we can combine or and not together in the same search. We can use a menu-driven database, or we can do a advanced command-driven search. The idea here is that we will be able to be more efficient searchers, and that we will find the most relevant information. Here we have an example using an academic database. Of course, this is EBSCOhost, and in this example I have chosen the Library Information Science and Technology Abstracts. And this is how the interface looks. So please make sure you go to the library website, to the Clarion University Library website, and practice searching. Here is a menu-driven search, and as you can see, we have 3 boxes there to combine the Boolean operators. But we can also add more boxes or more rows, like they say right here, and then we can combine the Boolean operators. And we can select the field for our search. For example, in this database, Library Information Science and Technology Abstracts, these are the searchable fields. So we may combine alt text with author, with title, with subject term, with abstract, with a keyword, with a geographic term, with a people, with a review, with a company, with a publication name, with the international standard serial number, with the international standard book number and with a special number called the accession number. So the idea here is to combine the searchable fields with the Boolean operators, and we may add more rows if we need to. So we may combine an abstract word or a subject term with an author, or with a source name if we know the publication name, if we know the journal that we're looking for, etc., etc. And then we can limit the search by year, by language, etc., etc. This is how you limit your search. You do the search first, and then you may limit your search by using, for example, you click here, you want to have access through the Claremont University of Pennsylvania. You want to have the link to the full text. You want a scholarly peer-reviewed journal. You may also limit by publication type, by document type, etc. For example, you don't want a letter to the editor. You want a scientific article, or you want a book, and then you limit your search or refine your search by using this box here. Most academic databases will have a similar interface, but of course the idea is that you become familiar because they may have different tweaks on how they present the information. I showed you before, but this is another example of a index. In this case, we go to more, and we at the top of the window, and we select indexes, and this database has several indexes: author supply keywords, company entity, document type, entry day, geographic terms. So you can use the index. The index is a very efficient way to search electronic information. So I will advise you to become familiar with searching electronic databases using the index. Here is it has a thesaurus too. If you want to find, and this is very important, here at the top it says thesaurus, and the thesaurus again is control vocabulary. And I will say again why it's so important to become familiar with control terms. It is very important because when the article was indexed, when it became part of the system, the article was assigned descriptors and keywords that use control vocabulary. Therefore, in order to get to that article, it will be more efficient if we use the same control vocabulary. Okay? Here, of course, it's results, and these are only an example, you know. This is what we see, the record structure. Remember, I was telling you what a record was at the beginning. Well, this is a record in this database. Again, they are very similar in each database, but they may also be a little bit different. And then you have the fields. In this case, we have the title, managing the unmanageable, systematic downloading of electronic resources by library users. Then we have authors, source, that's the name of the journal, document type is an article, subject terms, as we can see here, this is what I'm talking about, control vocabulary. Then we have some author supply keywords: fair use, IP authentication, license agreement, open proxy servers, robots, systematic downloading. And then we have the abstract. We may also have other fields. Okay, not all fields are searchable fields. The searchable fields are found in when you do the search, and I showed you that before. But this is a record, and these are the fields of the records. Another thing that we can use when we do search is use truncation, wildcards, stemming, and proximity. This is something that it's database specific. Not all databases use the same symbols for example, truncation or wildcard. So the idea here is that you read the instructions of each database and become familiar what are the symbols for truncation or wildcards, and because they are very important. Especially in truncations, you may only use the root of the word and then put the truncation symbol, and you will retrieve every document that has that root. For wildcards, it's very good idea to use when you are not sure about the spelling, or it may have different spellings. English American spelling or British English spelling, for example. So you use a wildcard. Here is an example of the instructions of Web of Science and how do you use wildcards. Okay, so here they use the asterisk, the question mark, and the $sign, for example. But each database may have a specific instructions and a specific symbols to use for truncation or wildcards. Another thing that we can use when we search is proximity operators. Again, this will be database specific, and it's very powerful because we will have two terms, and we can tell in our search how close those two terms must be in order to recall that document. Okay, in this case, this is a Web of Science, and they use the word near, and use the near -x to find records where the terms joined by the operator are within a specific number of words of each other. For example, here we have salmon near 15 virus, so they have to be within 15 words of each other. That's a very powerful command that you can use. Or you can use parentheses. And for example, here we have a expression or a syntax of how to use a parenthesis. In the second one is a very good example because it uses near to, so it's a salmon or pike, that's in parentheses, near 10 virus. What you do here, and this is how you, this is, by the way, this is, then we're here, what we're doing is not using any more menu driven, we're using command driven search. That's why command driven search is so powerful, because you can construct your own syntax expression. And here it is. It says find records containing salmon or pike within 10 words of virus. You see? So you will find all the records that have salmon or that have pike or have both, but they have to be within 10 words of the word virus. You see how powerful command-driven search is. But this is only possible if you become familiar with the academic database that you are using. You have to become an expert on your resources. That's our. I mean, this have to be our pride, to become expert searchers, to go beyond Google. We have to go beyond Google, because if we stay in Google, then why are we even at the university trying to be a professional? We have to go beyond Google. We have to become expert searchers. Here's an example of a advanced search command-driven interface. In this box here, you will write down your search using the syntax that it's allowed by this database. You have to use tags, field tags. These are the searchable fields. You have to use field tags. You have to use parentheses. You have to use Boolean operators. You may use wildcards. You may use truncation, and you may use the command near. And then you write the syntax right here in this box, and you do a more efficient search. You eventually, if you use a menu-driven search, you may get to the same point, but it will take you more steps. If you know very well how to write a syntax in a particular database, you become a power user. Here, I just did a simple search combining fields with a tag and a parenthesis. Okay. Address Hawaii and author Tenopir, not another author King, and I was able to retrieve 150 records. And here is this is another record. Remember when we were talking about records and fields, this is another example of a record from Web of Science. We have the title, then we have the author, then we have the source, then the time cited. This is a great advantage on Web of Science, and Scopus has that too. It will tell you how many times this article has been cited. That's why it's called the Science Citation Index. You can make a citation map. In other words, it can display who has cited this article. You have the abstract, you have the type of document, you have language, you have the addresses, etc., etc., etc. So this is another example of a record. Okay, so make sure you go to the Clarion Library website and become familiar and review every electronic database available there, and try to become familiar with more advanced ways of searching. Try to become a power searcher. Use parentheses, use Boolean operators, combine fields, use other commands such as wildcards, truncation, near search, etc., etc. It's called the near search is called the proximity search. Okay, thank you.